gentlemen, with that drum beat from the Liberal Cultural Ambassadors, that announces the beginning of Friday night debate here on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Friday night debate, we're going to be debating the following topics. Spoon Network shut down in Monrovia. Is it witch hunting or purely legal matters? We're going to debate also candidate or presidential aspirant Joseph Newman Boakai's anti-corruption agenda. Should we trust a Boakai anti-corruption agenda? True or false? Also, $54 million for one segment of the coastal highway. Is that true? Is it $56 million coming from Buchanan to Cestus River to complete the coastal highway? Last but not the least, U.S. Ambassador McCarthy's last word, still talking about corruption. With me to debate, I have a full house tonight, starting with the unapologetic sedition, Mr. Jerome Gaiman, who is also the host of On Point right here on Focus on Liberia. Mr. Gaiman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Great panelists, great issues on the ground as usual. Let's do it.
Let me also welcome the independent Welle Wilson Moba. Mrs. Moba, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis, and hello to fellow panelists. It's always good to be here.
Let me also welcome CPP leaning Mr. J. Victor Nambwe, who's joining us from the Garden State. Mr. Nambwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's good to be here.
Let me also welcome another panelist on Point, Mr. Jimmy Eastman, who always joins us from the nation's capital. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Dennis, thanks for inviting me here. I anticipate a healthy discussion. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mr. Amula Mame. He is a member of the Team Gonglo Yagbawro. Team Gonglo Yagbawro. Gonglo supporter, welcome, Mame.
Thank you, Dennis. Good to be here.
Let me welcome the JMB supporter, Mr. Aliyu Samba Kamara. Aliyu, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And by the way, Ambul have already started making the arrangement for our second round in case there is one. You are going to be a part of the campaign team if we go to the second round, because we think we're going to do this in one shot.
Thank you. Last and definitely not the least, let me welcome FOL political analyst, a product of Waplo Institute from Kilipo, Mr. Mohammed Sharif. And by the way, Kilipo is in River G. Welcome, Mr. Sharif.
Hey, Dennis, it's always good to be here. Thanks for the elaborate intro.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. First on our menu tonight, we woke up this morning and we got the news that Spoon Network, including the Spoon TV, Fabric Radio, and other stations, closed down in Monrovia. This was a shocker. There has been different responses to the shutdown. We saw one from the Press Union of Liberia, another one from the Joseph Newman Boakai campaign. But before we go into it, let's look at what happened. So I'm not a lawyer, but I try to look for things that I saw some court papers. The first one came from the LRA. And it looks, this one, when I read it, the only sense I could make of this is the people that have the building that Spoon is occupying. These people, according to LRA, from what I'm reading here, should be owing government taxes in the tune of $12.5 million US. So if those people are holding or owing government taxes, Spoon is occupying the building. Maybe if they want to close their building because they're owing taxes, it may affect Spoon Network. So that's one of the documents that I saw. Also, what I saw was let's read, the former, what they call him, Deputy Director General for Legis, Wilmot Smith, sued Spoon Network and also Mr. Stanton Witherspoon. And the documents are here for libel, I think. And it's looking at $1.5 million for that. And the documents are here. You can request them. We can send them to you later on. So when I got this, I asked some lawyer, I said, what does this mean? They said, well, they're suing. What happened is he sued what they call attachment, meaning when you sue someone and you have by attachment, meaning if the person is not able to pay, you are attaching real estate, something that they own. So if they are not able to pay, that's why you take, I think there's a 1.5 times that amount, right? So the only way people, and if that doesn't happen, so if people sue you with attachment, you have to respond. If you ignore and you don't kind of resist the attachment, that property that is in the attachment will be seized and closed. And so it looks like it appears to the lawyer that Spoon Network may have not responded to that rate, to that case. And if that happens, if you ignore, then that they will take it, they will seize it. So now when you go in the court, and if you are found guilty, it means they're going to sell your property, whatever, and pay for that lawsuit, which is, since he's suing for $1.5 million, if they sell Spoon property, then they use that to pay the guy, Wilmot Smith. So that's what, according to the lawyer, may happen. And because he might have ignored the lawsuit, this is why the police or the people, they move in and close it. If you win the case, they give your stuff back to you. That's all that I learned today. I know we're going to have a separate time for the show on this. We're going to bring in legal minds, but let's start with let's start with Mr. Aliu Kamara. I know your supporter JNB issued a statement condemning that. So what's your response? How do you react to the story of Spoon Network being closed? Do you think it's witch hunt?
Let me just say,
all you have to go through is this with code? Let me also mention that the government of Liberia say the code business, our hand not there, our foot not there. Mr. Kamara.
Let me just say to Mr. Witherspoon that we are all we're all empathizing with what happened to his network, the Spoon Network. It was very unfortunate. But then it just happened to be a coincidence that around the same time that this quote unquote letter from the court was served to Spoon, LRA come out with their own Ulubalu. So something is smelling, but then again, this is legal. It's a legal issue. For me, I like to get both sides of the coin. According to Mr. Witherspoon, he did not receive anything from the court. He has never received anything from the court. So how did they get to this point of seizing his belonging? Now we need to understand. He said that his lawyers are working on it. So we're looking. I mean, we got our eyes and ears open to see what happened, to hear what happened. But I have a gut feeling, and I may be wrong. There's something smelling, and it's not smelling too good. I think CDC is drowning, and at this point in time, they're looking for every group or individual to hold responsible for their failure in this campaign, or I like to call it campaign. People say campaign hasn't started yet, but in my opinion, it has. And so I think they're just trying to blame someone, and they're trying to make someone pay for it. The fact that the main rival to the CDC, which is the United Party, there have been a lot of accusations. We've been hearing in the grapevine that Spoon is supporting, and this is only an allegation because we know this is not true, that Spoon is supporting Joseph Boakai, and he's campaigning for Joseph Boakai, and he's using his network. And so they're finding every way to shut that network down, and basically because of the opposition. So, but as far as Joseph Boakai, as far as the campaign team from the Indo Party is concerned, just like the PUL, this is wrong and is an attempt to censor freedom of speech. I can't hear you guys.
Mr. Gaiman, what's your reaction?
Okay.
Who you talking to me?
Mr. Gaiman.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dennis. When you talk to Liberians, the first thing out of their minds, usually this is the land of law and order and not a land of men. The rule of law, that's why the opposition carries everywhere they go. As you can see, we have in Liberia, we have 3 branches of government that are separate but equal. They are independently operational. The judiciary is separate. As you can see, this case goes all the way back to 2022. And in fact, we all saw when Arthur Johnson, representing Mr. Smith, issued a warning to the Spoon Network through legal documentation last year. And he said, I gave you 30 days to retract that my client is a thief, that my client is a rogue, that my client established false accounts in the Cote d'Ivoire, and all of these things. They were not retracted, and a lawsuit was filed. Not only was a lawsuit filed, but that the Spoon Network and the CEO ignored the lawsuit. And now the case is taking its course. I know Mr. Kamara and people in the opposition party will say, since we have election coming up, government, the operation of the nation should come to a standstill because everything done within the next 12 months going to be political in nature. So our court system should stop. Our judicial system should stop. Our media system should stop. Everything should stop because everything is now political. This is a legal process. This is a system that has gone through the court system and it has reached this far. Mr. Witherspoon knows what to do, and I'm glad he said today that the legal team has now got to involve. That means they finally taking our judicial system seriously, and they will have representation, and this will be resolved logically.
Thank you. Mr. Victor Namwe, what's your reaction?
Well, this is really a difficult one. There are a number of us here who have championed, the rights of the people, the rights of the press, freedom to speak freely. But I have to say, I think the Spoon Network, either they are oblivious to the impact that they're having on the political space, or they're just inexperienced, or they just don't care. Sometimes I really think that the callous, they're pretty flippant with the allegations, and I mean we can go right back here to the director of the city police saga. And so why I support their freedom to express themselves, we have to also acknowledge that these freedoms do come with their responsibility. I do not support the government in any way trying to muzzle the press, but I understand, just like Jerome just indicated, this was really a civil matter that has been going through the court for over a year. And I understand that there were remedies available to the Spoon Network, and they refused to take advantage of those remedies. And so this was a writ that came from the court. Obviously, this is going through the legal process. I wish the former vice president, sometimes he doesn't ever seem to get it right. Either he's quick on his mark, or he's very slow to his mark. So Costa comes here and makes very damning accusations against him, and he says practically nothing. Issues a one-paragraph statement, and then this incident happens without giving himself the time to understand the intricacies of this matter. He goes ahead to issue a statement. I think that statement will fall flat on his face. I really believe there is a legal matter here that has to be handled through the courts. I don't see how the government is interfering in this matter. I really don't see it. So my reaction is, I think it's too early. We should wait to hear the facts come out before we can take a position. Other than that, I think we may be jumping the gun too early.
So, witch hunt or legal process?
I hate to say either of the two because, like I said, it is too early. But my initial inclination is to believe it is a legal process that is taking its course here.
Alice, what do you make of this case? Legal or witch hunt?
Well, I think it's I think it is legal, except that coincidentally, these things are happening in 4 days to election, and that the LRA and the Smith case are also happening at the same time. But I think as time goes by, we will understand whether it is political or legal. But for now, I can say it is legal because according to what we know currently, there's no way we don't have evidence to say the same timing. But there is a legal case, and let's see how it plays out. So I'm going to reserve my comments.
Thank you. Let me go to Mame, Ambula Mame here. Ambula.
Dennis, you were calling me on, right?
Yes, I want your reaction to the closure of this phone network.
First, this is a trend of sitting governments using private individuals, hiding behind private individuals to prosecute political opponents or calm down the media. It's a trend. From the Turbo era to the Doe era to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and the Unity Party era, and now to the CDC era. During the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, we saw private individuals attached to government taking lawsuit against media institutions, and those media institutions were shut down. During the Doe regime, similar things happened. It was even more draconian. Under the George Weah regime, the same thing. So it's just copying from the playbook of one anti-democratic element or the element of anti-democracy in one regime to the other. We will come and criticize. The PUL will release statement as usual. That's the trend. The PUL will release statement. Civil society will release statement. That has been the pattern. How do we end it? How do we bring an end to this practice of government using private individuals to come down and oppose people and suppress people who have different views of how the country should be governed? The way to do it is to elect leaders who have the character and commitment to tolerate dissent, who stand for the values and principles of democracy and good governance. And not only president, but even in the legislature. So let's tell our people to fix this problem is not to ignore it when you go into the ballot box, but to consider it as a factor that you're voting for. That's one. My second reaction is you introduce Wilmot Smith. Wilmot Smith has historical clandestine and criminal records. He was arrested in the US. I sent a picture to you. The story is online. You see a picture in here. I had to call it good. Yeah, you see. He was arrested in the US for backstage operation. He went to Liberia. George Weah, as usual, ignored these records and placed him at the ledges. The LACC indicted Wilmot P. and his boss. There's an LACC report that indicted them for acts of corruption and violation of the procurement laws. So a business about corruption, that's a strange thing for people to be shouting around, oh, somebody calling criminal and blah, blah, blah. There is a record of him being involved in clandestine activities. The government action against Spoon is strictly a political action to shut down the media institution as we go to election. That's it. Simple and clear. And they're using Wilmot P as a conduit.
Wilmot Smith, not Wilmot P.
Wilmot Smith. Using Wilmot
But
Smith.
I feel to see how Wilmot Smith's character has any impact on this case. I don't see it.
Come again?
I don't see what his impact has on this case. I mean, his character. What impact his character has on it. This is an individual, a private citizen, who is suing the network for defamation. And they have to go to court and present what their facts are for which they're accusing him of. I don't think that has anything to do with the case. It again prejudge the man.
That's why I listed two things. I said the LACC indicted him. It was the LACC report that Spoon was discussing and referring to him as criminal.
Well, but Mr. Mami.
Hold on, because we are so many. Mr. Mami, does Spoon have any accountability here?
Oh yes, they should be able to show up to court. They should be able to get their lawyer and show up to court. Yes, I agree.
Jimmy, many times, and because of previous government or our distrust of government, when things happen, we see witch hunt and political action first, even before we understand. I remember when we all woke up and we saw the news without even knowing, many of us concluded, say, the government again. Maybe because of the previous records of successive governments clamping down on the press. What's your reaction to this one?
Very good, Jai. You know, the first thing, let's examine the instrument that was used to seize the property or close down the station. A writ of attachment is a court order that empowers a plaintiff to attach or seize the assets of a defendant pending the time the legal case is finalized. Yeah. A writ of attachment is a pre-judgment process. In other words, judgment has not been reached. Yeah. Okay? It is an order issued before the final judgment. The asset of property is usually kept under a Liberian court or law enforcement officer or sheriff until an outcome is reached. The purpose of the writ, and this is the main thing here, the purpose of the writ of attachment is to prevent the defendant from disposing of the asset before a court judgment is issued. So my thing is, was that a threat that the Spoon institution would have, rid itself of its assets prior to this judgment? I don't really believe that was a threat. And so I question why a writ of attachment was issued. Okay. So looking at
that's what the plaintiff filed. Okay. Huh? The plaintiff filed that.
I didn't hear you.
Is the plaintiff who filed that writ, who filed that complaint for attachment, right?
Yeah, but the court has to grant it, and the court granted in the case where they think the assets may be, given out or sold before the final judgment. But I don't believe that was a threat here.
In other words, this man doesn't have this money, but we can get the money from his asset.
But is he going to sell it before the final judgment reach? No.
But how you know? That's just listen. The court's position is to be prudent to give justice, and I'm going to give you an example. 2 years ago, there was a gentleman that sued the Grand Bassa County University. He had a bus that was purchased from him by the university. the university failed to pay for the bus. So what the gentleman did was sue, and the university ignored the proceeding. And the judge in Upper Buchanan did exactly what happened. The sheriff went on the university campus and seized not only that bus, but several other instruments that were there until that debt can be. This is a common procedure in Liberia jurisprudence. So it is not that you say,
No, it's not common.
well,
all right. You are only injecting. I want
But
you to let
let's
us go
also
to Mohammed.
remember let's also remember that the CEO, the former CEO of the Spoon Network, is an indictee here in the States, and
That
his
doesn't have
court,
anything to do with this case.
Hold on,
no,
hold on, guys.
hold up.
Hold on, guys.
He's due to go to court in October. There is a high chance that his property may be seized.
that's correct.
If I am in Liberia and I have a case against this gentleman, I'll do everything I can to get my hands on whatever he owns before the U.S. government comes in to seize it.
That's a fair point. Jimmy, I want you to complete so I can go to Mohammed.
That is not a
And
fair
then we're going to go to Gibson Gerald, who have small bitty law in him. So you can tell us
And what I truly question about his whole motive, that is the plaintiff, Mr. Smith, is just as other people were saying on this panel, he was indicted by the LACC. Everything that was discussed over the Spoon TV had been a repetition of what the LACC had stated. So you kind of wonder, why is he suing Spoon TV and is not taking legal action against the LACC? So it appears a bit too disingenuous for me. But technically, I think this instrument, Mr. Nangme brought up a good point. Maybe in fear of his properties being confiscated in the U.S., you try to preempt that. But other than that, I don't think there was any fear that his property would have been sold ahead of time. So it's questionable.
Right. Mr. Sharif, so without going into the merit of the case, so we don't know how the case is going to turn, right? But the thing that took a lot of us by surprise is seizing the property. And as we revealed, this is because it was by attachment. So, legal witch hunt, or what are we saying here? Legal witch hunt. Oh, it's a feedback. Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, so there was a feedback there for a minute. This is witch hunt for me. You have to go back. One of the panelists mentioned, put this in some kind of historical context. When you look at what happened back then, Samuel Doe Decree 88A. So George Weah's government is not a military government, but it looks like a military government. It operates like a military or autocracy. This is an autocracy that we have in Liberia. So what they're doing is they're using individuals to clamp down on political opponents. You had Justice Janet on here last night, who was impeached because George Weah was displeased with the justice, some ruling in the 2017 election. So he used his minions against this good justice and impeached him. He used his armed men, to evict Henry Costas, dismantle Mr. Costas' radio station. He using his men now again to clamp down on the independent Spoon Network. Then is the next network they're probably going to look at now. If FOL, they will look at FOL now, and they'll look at other independent media institutions in the lead up to this 2023 election. This is purely an autocracy. I'm not buying this. And this is going to happen unless we all stand up. And George Weah does not listen to anybody, right? We need to collectively stand up. So all these people sitting out here trying to, justify this in some legal terms is disingenuous for me. I agree with Mr. Eastman. This is the kind of thing that autocracies are made for, and this is the kind of thing they're going to do unless we do something about it. And how do we do something about it? Is vote them out of office so that come January 21st or whatever day the inauguration is, these guys are out of job. And when they're out of job, they have to be, some of these people have to be prosecuted before a competent court. Right now, the court system resembles the presidency. The legislature resembles the presidency, and so we're in trouble. Who's out there in the streets of Monrovia right now talking about this issue? The only legislator out there right now is Yeke Koluba. Yeke Koluba is the only one out there who's condemning, one of the only ones out there, at least that I've heard so far, or who's out there standing for the independence of the media, standing for a media institution. That to me, I think is, you call him all you want, but that to me is commendable as someone who studied
Standing
journalism.
for independence.
So this is exactly what's going on. It's pure witch hunt. Judge Ware is playing this again. He has the judiciary in his pocket. He has everyone else in his pocket. Someone says that we have three independent. I think it was Jerome who said that we have three independent branches of government. That is a joke. You have the almighty presidency. George Weah is the imperial president. He is the king of Liberia. He controls everything. He controls all the ministry. He controls the Ministry of Justice. He controls the judicial branch of government. He controls the legislature. And when you have that, the country is in real trouble. We are in deep, deep trouble as we move on to the 2022 elections.
Mr. Sharif, before I go to Jeru, I mean, you have to test the system, right? So, assuming he was sued, so you go to court when these things happen, and let's see whether the law is going to be blind or not, right? But you are kind of preempting what's going to happen.
Yes,
seizing property that's a legal process. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that's a legal process. Like I predicted that Justice Kabine would be impeached to the effort of Akaras Gray. Can you imagine someone like Akaras Gray who led a fight to impeach a good justice like Kabine Jane? When that happens in a country, that country is in trouble. Yes, I advise the Spoon Network or the CEO to go out there and test the system. This is a judicial now. He's going in there with his hands with his hands already tied. All of the justices, his legal counsel is going in there with their hands fully tied. They're going to face a judicial system that's in the president's pocket. So the president is controlling this. Don't forget that. We had a situation in Liberia back in time where an independent chief justice who stood up, who tried for the first time, one of the first time in Liberian history, to make the judiciary fully independent. And what happened? He was impeached, and that chief justice was Chair Chipo. And we were at the Temple of Justice, cheering Mr. Chipo on for taking on the autocracy at that moment. And so right now we don't have any more Chipos. So what we have are guys and men and women who are in the pockets of George Weah. So this is what we have. We have a very, very dangerous democracy. And unless, guys who belong to George Weah's party, unless they also stand with independent-minded people like ourselves, they also stand with great and good opposition people, we are doomed. So do you guys understand? You have to understand the urgency of the moment. This moment calls for action, regardless of what you think about the opposition, regardless of what you think about Spoon and the Spoon Network, regardless of what you think about Mr. Witherspoon. Now is not the time to talk about, well, he's indicted in the United States. Yes, he's indicted. But you know what? He is indicted. Excuse me for a second.
No, but you've been talking for 7 minutes. You are biased in your assessment.
Excuse me.
You are not quoting.
Excuse me. I didn't interrupt you. Excuse me.
You are not saying anything that makes sense. You are making all the innuendo. What proof do you have that the president?
Excuse me. That's very unbecoming. So I'm
going
to finish in a minute.
Do you have that?
I'm going to finish in a minute. That's very unbecoming of you, Jerome.
Mr. Gilman, just hold on. Let him finish.
Mr. Witherspoon, regardless of his indictment in the United States, that has nothing to do with what's happening in Liberia. Liberia does not have jurisdiction, does not have the legal jurisdiction to do anything about Mr. Witherspoon's case in the United States. Similarly, the United States has no legal jurisdiction in anything that's going on in Liberia. So the two are separate. So that is what's
Thank
going
you.
on.
Thank you. Let me bring it. Hold on, Mr. Gamer. Let me bring
I don't
in.
know. I don't know, Dennis. I think
Hold on. Let me bring in Jerry. He's connecting from Liberia, so he has
I
some
think
challenges.
he's making a
Mr.
connection.
Nabe,
It doesn't
Mr.
look
Nabe, can you hold on a minute? Let me bring in Jeru, Gibson Jeru. He's connecting from Liberia, where data is normally harmonized. So, Jeru, what you make of the case? And throw in some from your criminal justice background, even though you say you didn't do much, but at least you passed the course. So tell us something.
looks like the man is coming to us from the Calabash. Where are you, my man?
In room 307.
The man is frozen.
He's frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Room 309.
But I wanted to be why he's coming, Jerome. Let's not forget. I wasn't on the show last night, but I followed part of it. Even Justice Janet was advising to take advantage of the legal process that is available to us. And if you're not satisfied, go to the ECOWAS court. He said that too. So I don't know
And what happens?
if you know, I mean, the only reason why I mentioned the case that Mr. Wilson has in this case is because of what we were talking about. You know, his property and this plaintiff apparent fear of him now, whatever judgment that is rendered in his favor, may not be able to recover. That's all. That's the only reason why I mentioned the states. But I don't think the two cases have anything to do with each other. I don't think so.
Thank you.
What his name? Dennis.
Mr. Jero.
If you see on that attachment, there's something I want to bring to our attention. That attachment has an insurance of up to $3 million. Under the Liberian law, and as business requires, to get a $3 million insurance on a case, he has insured his case. You must pay 10% of the total amount, so that's $300,000. Where Women Smith got $300,000 from to secure a $3 million insurance bond on his case.
From legends.
Wait, the plaintiff will put an insurance
yes
bond to case?
Yes.
That is the law in Liberia?
No, it's an option to the plaintiff to put an insurance on his case. So he put an insurance on his case just in case I do not win this case. If Santon wants to sue me, any damages that are caused to him, the insurance will take responsibility. So that case is insured. That is part of the attachment.
So what
I haven't read the documentation, but I've heard on another network that three point something $1 billion was the requirement, was the judgment that Stanton should have satisfied within a certain period. I think that is 1.5 of the 5.2 million.
That's correct. That's correct.
That he's been sued for. So the $3.1 million, I believe, is 1.5% of that case.
That's correct.
Yes, that's what I heard. But
1.5 times.
1.5 times. Correct.
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Jeru, go again.
Yes.
All right. So, Aliu.
Yes, sir.
Not putting you against the wall to answer for Mr. Boakai, but it seems that Mr. Boakai
really? Is that putting him against the wall?
Has a good understanding about the case, and so they have already issued condemnation. Do you think that is timely or a little premature? Or they are assuming that since it's it got to be out of malice or something?
First of all, let me just say that it doesn't add up for someone to say because Santon is indicted in America and therefore somebody in Liberia would be afraid that the United States government would go to Liberia and seize a Stanton's asset. I don't know. I don't think that person, that brother Victor, I don't think he meant to say that. I think that was a slip of tongue. But let me tell you something. Joseph Boakai was on course. Joseph Boakai knows the in and out of everything that went on. Remember now, Joseph Boakai is the former vice president of the Republic of Liberia. Joseph Boakai is connected. Joseph Boakai knows things that me and you don't know. And Stanton Waterspoon, plus some of his, well, not plus, Stanton Waterspoon has Joseph Boakai's number on speed dial as well. Remember that. And I can also tell you that a lot of Stanton Witherspoon's lawyers are sympathizers of Joseph Boakai as well. Joseph Boakai being an experienced man.
Hold on, Ali. You said
Go
Stanton
ahead.
had Joseph Boakai number on speed dial. Why is that so?
Well,
Is he,
Joseph,
is
again,
he,
if you want
is he
Joseph
part of
Boakai's
the?
number to be on speed dial for you, it can.
How is that even relevant to what we're
If you
discussing?
want,
No,
if
it's
you want
relevant.
Joseph Boakai's
It's
number to
relevant
be on
because
speed,
Stanton is being a link to Joseph Boakai. So what they're trying to establish is he's being punished because of his connection to Joseph Boakai. So if you say he has Joseph Boakai on speed, I mean, it has taken me how many years I've not been able to interview Joseph Boakai to get him to
no,
talk, right?
you will,
So hold on. So
you
if
will, you will.
Stanton gets him on speed dial, that's a special connection. Tell us about it.
But everybody got special connection some way, somehow. Mr.
Yeah.
Victor over
Just
there
tell us
has
the
asked
connection
Mr.
between
Cummings.
Joseph Boakai and Stanton Witherspoon that you know of.
Well, we remember now, whether we know it or not, Stanton Witherspoon has become a media guru in Liberia. Stanton Witherspoon is currently a stakeholder in Liberia's politics, even in Liberia's social affairs. Stanton Witherspoon is a serious man in Liberia. And this is why CDC is restless. And what I was trying to tell you is Joseph Boakai knows what he's saying. Joseph Boakai is not an ordinary man. He's not Aliyu, who just only have opinion. This is why Joseph Boakai tells everyone that he doesn't speak like everybody else, because when he speaks, people listen. As a statesman, he don't just talk. So Joseph Boakai knows exactly what's happening. And I can tell you for sure, again, I have to be careful because it's a legal thing. But I gave it to you nutshell before. I said something is smelling and it's not smelling good. Mr. Eastman said it, or Dennis Job. Dennis Job, what is the significance of this case to warrant someone property is being seized? We're talking about defamation here. Do you know how almost impossible it is to prove defamation? Especially in a situation where there are documented evidence to prove that this man was even fired by his boss. Why don't he sue his boss for unlawful termination then? Why not? Why is he going after those who are amplifying the reason for which he was fired? So something is smelling, and I leave that to the lawyers to go into it. I have the conviction that Stanton is going to win this case if it is legal. But if it is politicized, or if it is for political reason, George Weah has the upper hand. And I can tell you for sure, the goal here is to break some of Joseph Boakai's strength, because they have come to the conclusion, and I can tell from the way Victor is speaking, I think he has that suspicion as well. He being a communist man, of course, so he will speak the way he's speaking. And I have to believe that this case is not going to be as simple as people see it, because I don't feel it's all the way legal. I think there are some big hands in this thing, and they're afraid that Joseph Boakai is making too much inroad as a result of our spoon talk. That's how they feel. I don't see it that way, but that's how they feel.
All right. So you are actually connecting Joseph Boakai with Spoon, but you say that's how they feel.
No, that's how you're understanding it.
Let me tell you this, Dennis.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying that's how they feel.
My friend Ali,
hold on, Victor. I know there are many panelists, so we're going to have. Let me go to Alice. So Alice, the connection many are making, and Aliu is alluding to that without alluding.
No.
There is a connection between Witherspoon, who, according to him, has Joseph Newman Boakai's number on speed dial, and because the Spoon network has been used to promote the campaign, and I'm paraphrasing. This is why the government is clamping down on Joseph Newman Boakai. Do you see a connection here, Alice?
Well, as I said from the beginning, the case has a legal part that is glaring. There could be underlying factors that are political. So if he has Joseph Boakai's number on speed dialing and he's promoting a campaign and the government sees an opportunity to clamp down on him, then it is political in some sense. So I mean, it's just kind of intertwined. The whole saga is kind of intertwined because you got a legal case going on, but then it is politically motivated in some sense. That's how I see it.
Mr. Ja.
Go ahead, Victor. Let Victor come before you. Victor.
Yes, thank you, Dennis. I quickly wanted to dispel the allegation from our friend here, Aliu, that I have anyone's number on speed dial. That's not true. Two, when I mentioned that if Mr. Witherspoon has a case here in the States, we know that the kind of case that he has here in the States, those are the kind of cases that lead to asset seizure and freezing of assets. We all know that. So that is not, I'm not imagining anything. Now, let's remind ourselves here, this is a legal matter. One of the listeners here just reminded us the Fox News here in the States, they are paying $787 million in damages because what? They supported a false allegation against the electoral process, the democracy here. And what Mr. Witherspoon is doing, I mean, I follow him. I mean, I watch the show. I would say about a year ago, I could tell that I could attest that he was trying to strike a little bit of balance. But lately, that is not what they're doing on the show. That is not what they're doing on the show. So what he's doing is he's impacting a significant portion of the electorate, whether he knows it or not. So if he's going to do that, I will encourage him to stay with the facts. That's all I'm saying. So if Mr. Smith felt maligned by him and he took the matter to the court, then just like he said today, let him send his lawyers to the court. But I understand they went through the process and he was advised to do A, B, C, and D. And he refused to do that. After several warnings, he still refused to comply. Hence the action of today. Now, I'm not in the government. I don't necessarily support what the government, but what I'm saying is if there is a legal process, there is a legal process, and we should let it play out. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but Mr. Nangbe, no final judgment has been reached.
No, Mr. Eastman, please don't go there. Don't go there.
No, let him end his thought. Mr. Ismail, is that all you have to say?
Yeah, no final judgment. So, in other words, it is still pending. The case is still in process.
Right.
So we can't say definitively whether he will win or lose. This is just trying to, like you point out, preempt his property being seized from other means, maybe. Mm-hmm. But by no means we can say that Witherspoon is going to lose this case, and there's no proof that he will.
No, yes. Absolutely
not. But remember, the seizure of assets before that time is legal, correct?
Yes, to this instrument, the writ of attachment. Yes.
All right. I want us to move to the next issue, unless Mame or Jeru is still going. Mame and Mohammed, if you have anything to add.
I just think we should move to the next topic. That's what I can add.
Mohammed?
Yeah, I mean, I've sufficiently said it.
All right, thank you.
So I don't need to belabor that point. This is purely something is behind this. The powers that are behind this, they know themselves, and it's right in the executive mansion.
Mr. Ja, please.
Hold on, Mr. Gibbon. No, we got to move.
No, but you told me to wait. You were coming to me, then you skipped and went to Mr. Ja.
No, because when he said that, you just agreed. So
no. The fact here is we cannot argue with facts. What is on the table here is a rate that we need to discuss. Whether you believe, which is we cannot divine your intent and your beliefs. What we can talk about here is what's on the books. The gentleman was required to go to court to answer to a writ. He never did, and he was found to be where he is. That's the fact. If you are asked to go to court in this country and you don't go to court, the sheriff is coming for you. That's legal. There's no argument about that. So when you sit here in the United States and say that, and second, the United States
court system is a joke.
Excuse me.
It's a joke.
There you go. Okay, so then, since it's a joke, you advise Stanton Waterspoon not to appear, and this is what happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But Stanton also said that he was never contacted to go to
There
court.
you go. Thank you.
So we don't know yet.
We have the paper here that was said he was notified November 2022.
Right, and you have any? Do you have any proof that he got that he was served?
Well, the legal team said they communicated with his legal department.
Communicated.
So, yeah, so we will see because it was filed.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining, this is Friday Night Debate. The second part of our debate here is Joseph Newman Boakai has laid out his anti-corruption agenda, right? And part of that is when he takes office, he's going to appoint an anti-corruption czar. Mr. Gaiman, do you trust Mr. Boakai's anti-corruption plan?
Well, first of all, Joseph Boakai is senile. He's old. Joseph Boakai, from his birth, he's been known to lie. Joseph Boakai in 2017 said,
what does being old that
listen. I'm making the premise now.
I want you to be respectful of Mr. Boakai.
But if the person has some disability, there's no respectability about being
right, because you said he's senile, he's old.
He's disabled.
Then let our man talk about.
In 2016, Joseph Boakai said he was 76. 6 years later, Joseph Boakai said he's 78. He should be 82 by now, at least. In his book, which I have here, Joseph Boakai, I have his book here, he said he walked from Foya to the Capitol. Joseph Boakai said he walked from Foya to the Capitol, Liberia. You tell me now we can't even get from Monrovia to Vanchima, they have to go through Sierra Leone. But this man wants us to believe that as a child, he walked from Foya to Monrovia. That's one. Two, Joseph Boakai said he has been a park car for 12 years. When Ellen was there, he was inactive. 12 years, we having president, we have 6 years, so he's been parked for 18 years. If you had a car that is parked in your garage for 18 years and it have not started, you tell me when it's going to start. Second, we have Mr. John Molu. Mr. Molu said, under Joseph Boakai and Ellie, they had the most corrupt government ever. That's John Molu. That's one of his supposedly newly now anointed spokesperson for fundraiser. Joseph Boakai agreed that they have billions and they squandered it. They did absolutely nothing. Joseph Boakai was president of the Senate. 66 out of 68 concession agreement were bogus. This is the man now the octogenarian, this old man now is telling us that he is the future of Liberia and he's going to establish a court and he's going to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, please, man, don't insult our intelligence. Joseph Boakai.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Aliyu, first, I don't know if you remember to lay out the anti-corruption plan, and does Mr. Boakai have a history of fighting corruption?
I think I'm struggling to understand. I think I got what you're saying. Is Mr. Boakai capable of handling corruption? I think that's what you said. Your line is a little shaking there.
I said, does he have the history of fighting corruption? What did he do in the past that can make us say that when he's elected, he's going to fight corruption?
Then, first of all, let's just set a couple of things straight. I'll answer that. That's one of the easiest questions you ever asked me. In the 50s, there were no motor vehicle roads to Lofa County. So if Joseph Boakai graduated high school in Monrovia before roads went to Lofa County, then obviously he had to walk. By the way, he said he walked from Wasanga to Tubmanburg because there were automobile road going to Tubmanburg. My grandfather, Salia Mamadi Kamara, walked from Quadoboni to Bon County, where he met my grandmother, place now known as Hindi. in 1920 something. So people were walking. Just me, just in the walk. I walked from Grand Bassa County from Timon all the way to Salala, going through Jama Camp. People walk. So it shouldn't be surprising to you.
I walk from Morovia to Lac.
Aha. People walk. People can walk long distances. Look, okay, Dennis, as per your question, Joseph Boakai has proven that he can fight corruption, he can curtail corruption, he can stop corruption by virtue of his record. From 1972 up to 1980, under Joseph Boakai rule at LPMC, there were absolutely, at no time, even though regular auditing was going on at the LPMC, not one time there were any sign of corruption under his administration. Joseph Boakai, as vice president for 12 years, when he was leaving office, Joseph Boakai is one of the people who ordered an audit for his office. And not only did he do that, he turned everything that was left over, including money, to Jua Howard Taylor. These are evidences that Joseph Boakai do have the ability and the will to fight corruption. Somebody said there was 66 Booger, deal out of 68. But that 66 Booger thing you're talking about brought several companies to Liberia from the southeast all the way coming down to Niva County and in some cases Bomi County. Let's talk about your deals. Let's talk about your concessions. 6 years. You have not done it. You can't bring no Booger concession according to you. You're smart. You have smart legislations or legislators. Show us one company that you brought to the country in 6 years. Those who have Booger deals, Booger concessions, they brought several companies in the country, hired several Liberians. They enacted all the different entities in government to help you, to give you foundation to fight corruption, to give you foundation to build upon. You cannot keep up with anything in the country. In fact, you've destroyed all. The last time I used Raofi Highway, the passenger side of my farm BMW, the passenger side of the bus, the Shakashiwahi broke. The Robertsfield Highway is rougher than the road from Buchanan to River City. And you want to sit down here and talk, Mr. Gibman? Mr. Gibman, don't say nothing here.
You have not said how you're going to fight. What history of you fighting corruption?
Thank you. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Let's lay out, I just put Mr. Boakai, he laid out his anti-corruption agenda. He emphasized the need to confront what he called his cancer, remember cancer, or vampire from the last administration that is eating up the country, and pledged to address it with utmost brutality. He talked about the establishment of renowned anti-corruption czars who will be fully empowered to recover stolen funds and ill-gotten property from officials of the WIA government. He said by retrieving those things, he can redirect those funds to some other things. Do you believe him?
Well, I think it makes good sound bites. Let me be honest with you, because to curtail corruption in Liberia would take a tremendous effort. When Ellen Johnson was running for president, I went to a town hall meeting and I asked her the same question. I said, some of the people I see you bringing back were questionable characters. How will you deal with corruption in the government? And she said by enforcing the law. But she left the administration. She left her with a record of her saying it was a cancer. So just because he says it doesn't mean anything. Implementation is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where many Liberian projects fail. So by the fact that he said he's going to appoint a czar, it's going to require way more than that. Corruption is at the roots of all transactions in Liberia today. all the government transactions. You have to give a kickback just to get a letter printed or just to register your car, everything. Now, just by appointing a czar, you're going to need a much more thorough method to do that. And one of the first things he'll have to do is bring salaries up to par. If you're not paying people, they will do whatever they can to get money. So if he had explained to me, how he will alleviate some of the economic hardship that will incline people not to steal, that will motivate people toward nationhood, then I would believe it. But just telling me he's going to appoint a czar and that's going to resolve it, I've got to see that before I believe it.
Thank you. Mr. Mame.
So your specific question is whether we believe what Joseph Boakai said.
Yes.
I will answer that and then I will respond to some other issues. Firstly, I support Councillor Gonglo because I do not believe any candidate commitment to fight corruption. That's the reason why I support Councillor Gonglo. I know the magnitude of corruption in Liberia. Like Mr. Eastman was saying, it's at the root of everything. It's in the churches, it's in the mosques, it's in the community. I can always say, you can live in a community today. You live in a rented bedroom. And after 6 months in government, you build a compound. If you're in the Muslim faith, the imam will come there and tell you the place you get the money from, let God make more come from there. If you're Christian, the pastor will come and pray, open the house and say the place you got the money from, let God make more come from there, knowing that you stole the money. So I'm giving this scenario to show how chronic corruption is in Liberia and how it's hurting our people. So I'm supporting Gonglo because I believe he's the only candidate with the track record, commitment, and strategy to fight corruption.
Why you don't believe Joseph Boakai can do that?
Because I have not seen Joseph Boakai track record in fighting corruption as compared to
Give us Gonglo track record for the corruption.
I have not seen Boakai's track record in fighting corruption, Boakai track record in standing for anti-corruption policies and programs as compared to Gonglo. However, Councillor, what is his name? Vice President Boakai's decision to announce John Molu gave some level of what the brother said, good sound bites. Everybody know what Molu stands for. Everybody know his values and his principles. Everybody know what he did when he was head of the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. And the point I want to stress is this Molu is not just coming from the blue sky. This Molu is a supporter of the CDC. He established and presented to the CDC. He publicly endorsed George Weah for 2017. I know from 2005 he was there. Publicly, he endorsed George Weah. This John Molu presented an anti-corruption agenda to George Weah, one of which was the establishment of the Asset Recovery Committee. The same thing you hear Boakai talking today is the same thing John Molu proposed to Weah. Weah established that committee, appointed people. His failure, his lack of political will, caused everybody on the committee to resign. The organization, the Asset Recovery Committee, canceled. I send you the link of the chairman announcing that he's resigning from the George Weah Asset Recovery Committee because there is no political will to fight corruption. He resigned. It is that same model that Molu took and gave to Boakai, and Boakai is running with. So when Gilman beating on Boakai or saying Boakai can't fight corruption, what is Weah doing? He campaigned on anti-corruption promises. I will order no car. I will order this institution. I will retrieve stolen wealth. What has he done for which we should re-elect him? What has he done? You're talking Boakai can lie. I'm not here to defend Boakai. George Weah lies more than any other president. He said publicly that he has a farm that's producing food in Grand Cru and the food is being used to feed the people. Where is the farm?
Sino, not Grand Cru.
Sino. Where is the farm? Publicly lying on the people. So they leave this thing and pay.
But you know, you have Gimmick and Thor, how they can talk. All of them, the CDC people.
So let's pay attention to.
Finish his speech.
They are finishing my speech now. Let's
No,
pay attention to.
I'm not saying I'm not. You're doing a great job, young man. But this man keep interrupting.
So, while closing, what has George Weah done to fight corruption?
Thank you. Mr. Nambwe, quite recently, we heard the Henry Costa story that there was $3 million on the table, and Mr. Boakai went to a meeting. Mr. Jojo Boakai admitted that actually Mr. Boakai did attend that meeting, and that 30 million smell like corruption to me. What can Mr. Boakai tell us about anti-corruption that we should believe?
Absolutely nothing.
I have to address that though.
Absolutely nothing. And this is what I was saying earlier, that it seems to me that the former vice president, he's not a man of himself. He allows the people around him to jerk him around. Just like Mr. Ambulai just indicated, my mate. This is John Molu acting, speaking through the former vice president. This vice president has been running for office for 12 years now. He ran the last time and he's running again. I think this is the first time he ever issued something that sounds like an attempt to fight corruption. But what is it that he has done? What is it that we can point to in his years of service in government that would tell us that this man really means business? I mean, what do they say about your past performance? It is a predictor of your what? Your future performance.
Yeah.
What is it that this vice president can point to that would tell us that this man is really going to be tough on corruption? Back in May, Eugene Lin Nangwe got on TV here and reported that this vice president increased his expenditure in his office to about $20 million before he left office. $20 million. Then an additional $15 million for youth program. The man has not said anything about it, just like he has said nothing about this $30 million accusation from Henry Costa. So I will agree with my brother who said this is a bumper sticker. I think it's just a slogan. I don't really believe there's any real commitment there to fight corruption. I mean, this man was vice president for the former president for 12 years, and we can count the number of stories of corruption that were in the press. Yes, he was the vice president, but hey, he was culpable too because he was in the government. He was number 2 person in the government. He was the Senate, for crying out loud. So for him to come today, and because Molu joined the campaign and Molu brought his little thing that he wrote for Weah some 20 years ago, dusted it off and threw it at him and said, yeah, put that thing on the, Now, I don't believe that he's committed to that pronouncement.
Dennis, can I interject for a second?
I want to throw something there before you come in.
Yeah, because Victor just killing all kind of thing around here.
Yeah, please note that, because I'm going to throw something on what Musa Bilete said, because we're talking about the 30 million. I know you want to talk about the 30 million. Accordingly, he walked away, but according to Henry Costa, he briefed him about the 30 million. He still went in that meeting.
No, Dennis. Dennis, he did not walk away. The money was redirected away from him.
No, I mean, that's
according to what Costa reported. He went.
Yeah, I'm not only using Costa. So some say he wanted the money but didn't want to accept the conditions that because he has said nothing, right? So we are waiting for him to say, but he said he's not going to say anything like that. And let's listen to Musa Bilete. What Musa Bilete is saying here. He said during the CPP crisis, Costa had more influence over JNB than all UP officials combined. You cannot be silent on what he says about you now. Your silence makes the story even more credible. Or is it that you are afraid he may produce evidence to back up a statement if you deny it? As a presidential candidate, you cannot afford to have these questions hanging over your head in the next 90 days. It will cost you. I don't know what Musa is trying to advise JNB, what will cost him. But Mr. Sharif, where did you go?
I wanted to interject over there for a second.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I may lost something. Okay. I'll be damned that Joseph Boakai will respond to Musa Belete, a guy like Musa Belete. But you know, I usually hear this
He
thing
can't
from these.
respond to Costa. He can't respond to Musa Belete. What's going to respond
No,
to?
no, he responded to Costa. He just
Yeah,
didn't
he said,
respond to
"Yeah,
Costa
forgive you."
anyway.
He did not. He did
There,
not
there you
respond
go.
to the allegations.
He just didn't respond to Costa in manner that the other people wanted him to. Let me tell you, with this $30 million thing, I know the ANC think that this can help them. Now, as we're speaking, Ambula and others have already come and passed by these people. We still want to discuss politics. The $30 million is Joseph Boakai did not go to Ghana purposefully because there was a $30 million in Ghana and he was going there for it. That's not true. Joseph Boakai was in transit already.
I
And
never
when
said
this
that either. And that's not what I said.
and no, hold on.
You going to explain a long
you
story.
said,
I never
Hold
said
on,
that.
Victor.
You said he didn't reject the money.
Yes.
First of all, Joseph Boakai did not know of a $30 million until he went into the room. Okay? He asked few
So which
wise.
meeting was he being invited to do
What?
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 Why did he go
Well,
into
he
the
was
room?
being invited. Somebody called you and said, you know, we got campaign going, we got election coming, and it's costly. And you have me in your camp. You trust me, Dennis. Okay? And I call you and say, you know what, Bravi, so in Accra, so people want to meet you. They are our fans. They want to support us, but they want to meet with you. Dennis, you will not go there? That's all
I'll be brief about
the
what the
pops did.
meeting is about.
What?
I said
The meeting was
I will
about
listen to what
support.
the meeting is about before I go there. I will know the
That's
people.
what I'm saying now.
Mhm.
The man is already in transit. He's coming through Ghana anyways. The meeting is being held in Ghana. They say they want to support you, Dennis. I say the people that they get money, they want to support you. You know, campaign expensive. Dennis, let's be honest now. Forget about all this the political thing and tell me the truth. Since you're already coming through, would you not just stop there to hear what's in the message in the meeting? And that's what Joseph Boakai did. Joseph Boakai stopped into the meeting. What even discussed Joseph
They
Boakai
had a
more?
meeting at the Kotoka airport or how it started.
No, the meeting did not have to be held at Kotoka Airport. Joseph Boakai may be broke, but he's not as poor as
No,
me
what I
and
mean
you.
is he
Okay?
went to the
Joseph
meeting.
Boakai
It
will
was not like
always
he's
choose to
flying
speak it.
through and then they say, "Hey, stop, let's talk." This was a
No. I want you to understand it. Don't oversimplify it. I want you to understand this.
Okay.
Before Joseph Boakai left the States to go back to Liberia, he was already informed by this same Henry Costa, who happened to be a confidant at the time.
Okay.
That there were people. Now, what Henry Costa did not disclose to Joseph Boakai was he had an intention. He was interested in being a vice president.
Thank you.
Okay? And which Joseph Boakai would never do, even on his deathbed, making Henry Costa his vice president. Because your vice president either has to be as qualified as you or in many other respects better than you. Henry Costa doesn't have any of those qualifications. So Joseph Boakai went to a meeting because he was told there was a meeting and this meeting was to support him.
Mr. Kamara,
And when he got to the meeting, he was slapped in the face. He was slapped in the face with Henry Costa. Hold on 1 minute. He was slapped in the face with Henry Costa vice president's stuff. Now that even pissed him off even more. So when you hear people say, "Oh, he did not refuse the money. The money was turned over." First of all, he turned the entire meeting and the intent behind the meeting down. He was not going to choose Henry Costa. Period.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Sharif on this Boakai anti-corruption plan. I know we've said enough, but
yeah. So the former vice president has, it's a mixed bag. So he has, on the one hand, he has a compelling story to tell, but he's not telling. He was the director of the Liberia Produce Marketing Corporation in the mid '80s. I guess it's the mid '80s. So
for the 70s to the 80s.
Yeah. So there, he performed admirably. So I don't know why that story is not coming up. But when you talk about anti-corruption, so I believe that up to the point where now you have Jeremiah Kong and the Prince Johnsons of the world now. So then so how is it that these people now you have close confidants who are really very questionable to say the least. So the hands cannot be that altogether clean if you now surround yourself with individuals who themselves have questionable character. That's number one for me. Number one would have been his compelling story. That's number two for me. Number two would be surrounding yourself with all these people. Number three for me then will be this whole allegation by Henry Costa that Mr. Boakai was in the room. Now, this has been admitted by his own son, Joseph Boakai Jr., although he denied that his father accepted the deal to give the Wolobisi project to those those financiers who were. So if I were Joseph Boakai tomorrow morning, I would call a press conference. I'll call a press conference and disclose who they were, who these mysterious figures were. So there's no legal obligation to do this, but ethically, he is responsible to the constituents. Come clean and tell the Liberian people, go more, take extra step than Costa did. He will win that battle. But now you're not coming out to say anything. You say, well, I'm not going to respond
That
to
is
this.
not going to happen.
I'm not going to say to this, man. You need to come out now, say something about the meeting. Who were these people? Were they Russian oligarchs? Because the Russians are going all over the place. The Chinese are all over the place, for God's sake. Were they Chinese and Russian oligarchs? Who were they? Who are these people trying to buy our country? Who are these people trying to buy off? As we see, there were similar allegations, when Weah was running for president. These allegations have been around. It's not unique to Joseph Boakai, but if you want to be different from the current president, if you want to be different from the current ruling elite, you have to do something different. You have to be revolutionary in your thought process. You have to be revolutionary in your action. I don't see that. Now, you want to come out, give a press conference. Dennis, you mentioned earlier at the top of the show that you haven't been able to interview him. His handlers probably are telling him, don't go on that show because, you're probably going to ask, a lot of good questions, which I think you're an excellent interviewer. So this is the kind of thing that, why will you shy away from a Liberian media institution? Why will you shy away from any media institution for that matter? I mean, so corruption is not just, so we tend to, a lot of us tend to just look at the administration, George Weah's doing X, Y, and Z. I am number one on that. But at the same time, we're not looking at what the opposition is doing or not doing. I think that the spotlight sometimes have to turn on them because there is a lot that they are not doing. Joseph Boakai is someone that, a lot of us, admire his he has a good temperament. But, that's not enough. That's not enough to run the country. It's not enough to be calm. It's not enough to be the nation's uncle. You know what I'm saying? So you need more than that. You need someone who is really in control, who is in the driver's seat. So it doesn't quite appear that when he gets into the driver's seat, that the passenger sitting in that car is not going to say, stop this vehicle now. We're going to the ditch. I'm going to take over. So that is the concern, I think, that some Liberians, not all Liberians, because someone mentioned, I think Gongolo mentioned on this show last night, or someone else mentioned on the show last night, that the Liberian voters, I think it was Ahmed, continue to talk about how the Liberian voters vote differently. So if they weren't voting differently, if they were voting like Sierra Leoneans or other countries, you will have concern that Joseph Boakai, even though he is the driver of this vehicle, but the passenger in that vehicle will stop the vehicle and take the vehicle away from Joseph Boakai because things are not steady right now. And so that is a concern for me. And I think that it should really be a concern for Liberian voters as they go to the polls, later this year.
Finally, on this topic, Jimmy, should Mr. Boakai respond to Henry Costa directly?
Mr. Boakai used taciturn methods to guide himself, because if you're quiet on issues, then they tend to go away in Liberia. As they say, Liberia memory is short term. So by being very, very quiet on the issue is probably the best way to handle it. But to me, this whole thing is a gift to the CDC government. Because if we're talking about people bringing 30 million to help a campaign, this is an opportune time for NEC and the NSA to question those who were in this meeting. Who were these people?
Yeah.
I would send a couple of agents over to the VP and ask him what kind of meeting did you go to? Who were those involved?
They will go cry and wish hunt. That's what they will do.
Why you can't go to
This is
Costa?
a genuine concern. You know, this thing was announced on national stations. It's a genuine concern. Witch hunt or no witch hunt? We're trying to ask you who did you go meet there? Are foreign nationals involved? You know, I would have taken that step, but actually, I don't think Boakai will say anything about this issue. He will let it be as quiet as possible until it goes away.
Right. Even you can say what I saw Sir Joseph in the meeting or not.
Now you've been a comedian.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about
what if Summit Tour was on the plane? All of that, we heard all that.
Look at that. Look at that.
talking about
But
that tomorrow.
talking ANC for won't be talking to us.
Tomorrow
Anyway.
at 1 p.m. I will be interviewing the Rescue Ente. That's the vice chair for fundraising of the JNB campaign team. You don't want to miss that. It's happening right here. Focus on Liberia at 1 p.m. Then on Sunday, 6 p.m., there are some people who work on the front lines of this whole Zogo and drug crisis. One of them is Josephine Koluba of the Coffee with Jojo. She's the founder of Jojo Hope House. And Pastor Caleb S.G. Doma. He's the executive director of Zogos We Care. So on Hello Pastor, we will be exploring the front lines of the Zogos and drug crisis in Liberia, of course. I'm your host. Don't miss it. Gentlemen, and ladies, let's deal with our last topic of tonight before we bring in our callers. That is the good news for Southeast. Finally, our coastal highway is here. Smiling? All right. So the government has been announcing, one of it is say 3 World Bank pledges $300 million to Liberia to construct the second St. Paul River hydroelectric dam in Lower Bong County. And then the big one, the government of Liberia and the African Development Bank have finalized discussions to kickstart the construction of the 444-kilometer long coastal highway before 2023 ends. And so part of that, they call it Lot 1, which is the segment of the coastal highway, has an estimated cost of $54 million. According to the government, that money is in a basket. Mr. Ambula, I know you wrote extensively about this money, but should we be singing hallelujah anyhow, especially those of us all the way beyond God's back from Sino County?
Don't sing. Tonight.
Why not?
The same story that came with the Ibuma and Eton Loon, and that they were going to build the coastal highway, and then you didn't hear about it. The same way the story came about the, I think, 30 billion blue carbon, and today you can't hear about it. And all the other things that the reason why. But most importantly, though, the African Development Bank has clarified, has responded to me, to an inquiry, that they have no commitment with the government of Liberia for Southeastern Corridor, or how you call it, coastal highway. They got no commitment. The second reason why you should not celebrate, the African Development Bank is a banking institution. Before they credit you money, it has to be a sovereign fund that your legislature must approve. It must be rectified by the legislature. There has been no such agreement presented to the legislature before even talking about it being rectified. The legislature closes next Thursday to go for election and will return after the election. How will the African Development Bank credit fund to the government to build road before the end of 2023? When the fund, when the agreement has not been drafted and submitted to the legislature, and the legislature has not passed on one. Thirdly, the The African Development Bank, as part of their response to me, refer me to their data bank on Liberia and all the other countries. And I did a summary of all the funding of the African Development Bank from 1967 to July 2023. Every money they have credited and spent in Liberia in a different sector. It's less than 500 million. It's 410 million. From 1967 to July 2023. How you come in less than 80 days to election and put people under the impression that you get this deal with African Development Bank to pave the coastal highway, but you're beginning with Lot 1. And Lot 1 will end before the end of 2023. That's lie. I know discussions are being held, but there is no commitment from the African Development Bank as communicated to me. 2, there is no agreement presented to the legislature as required by law. The legislature has rectified no loan agreement between Liberia and African Development Bank. So this is just another political ploy that the government is intending that at the middle of the campaign can use as a foundation story to go and say the breaking ground for the construction of coastal highway. And then it will refer you to an old story they published maybe 1 month ago and said the African Development Bank will provide the money. No agreement, no commitment. The African Development Bank has clarified that they have no commitment with government. On their data bank, there is nothing there about coastal highway and no funding for coastal highway. The legislature has never received any agreement and has never rectified any agreement for coastal highway.
And do you have a copy of that communication from the African Development Bank?
Yes, I can send it to you.
Yes, please do. Mr. Sharif, I mean, I remember, you in that little town in Kilipo going to Waplo where you have to take your clothes off and walk in the water. You don't have to do that no more. The coastal highway is now a reality.
Yeah, first, yeah, you're right. Your recollection. I mean, you're going down memory lane there. There were guys, from our town. There was guys living behind us who I went to school with. This elementary school, very small school, who will come from that other town. And they will have to take off their uniform. Get in that water. River to cross. And they did the same thing going back after school, and this was their daily life. And so, thinking about that now, I think it still goes on. So this coastal highway is supposed to supposedly address those kinds of issues, but Ambula has very good information. I don't know if I can add more to that. He's very authoritative on this. And so I don't know if I can add more because he has gone as far as making inquiries to the African Development Bank, which is I think is newsworthy. So if they don't have any commitment to the government, then so what is this a deception by the government? Which I'm not surprised if they deceive us again. They are full of deceptions. So anyway. What I think is happening is that what has happened over the years is that the Liberian people have been promised roads. Then it has happened years and years and years. I don't even want to go back that far, but sometimes in the mid '80s to the early '90s, we saw there were tolls on the road. The Ganta Harper Highway. There were tolls. We don't know what happened to the money. So there have been attempts by previous governments to do these things, but the will is not there. So as long as that will is not there, it's not going to happen. These things are not going to happen. And so I don't think it happened. I think it's a ploy. But if it happens, it's a great thing for the Liberian people. It's a great thing for citizens. If it happens, the government will surprise me. I will laud them for it, but I have my doubts.
Alex, if you speak to people in Liberia, some people will tell you, I'm only voting for this president because of roads, right? He has connected roads in the city. There is a Fishtown Highway. and some roads in the southeast. This is this good news for people in the southeast? And what's your reaction that lot one, or do you think this is political for the campaign? Because I know the late Mobutu Nyimpa, when the campaign was or the election was like a month away, it went in the center of Dodo and they said they're going to build clinic. We try to tell the people, they said this man is fooling you. You know what they told us? They said, wait, when you bring your own clinic, then you can talk to us. But for now, we are on the side of Senator Nyimpa. What do you make of this story that Coastal Highway Lot 1 is going to be built? We have 54 million for that.
Well, it is something that is sad because the people that are affected most are the people in the southeast, where the roads are so horrible that people cannot travel freely. And even if they did, it's a death trap. A lot of people died just 2019 and lost one of the best sinkers that they used to call River G Queen. Okay. And so a lot of people being dying on the highway. So if you promise somebody, we need to find out it's because of campaign, that makes it very sad. With the roads are very, very serious issues in Liberia. So if the government came to power 6 years ago and the coastal highway that we've been hearing about had not started, so you got 4 weeks to elections, and all of the sudden there's some coastal highway that is supposed to be built. I think it's all intended because of the elections. I mean, they could have the plan, but bringing that forward now, I think it's because of elections. And Abdullah did a very good analysis of the situation. If the bank, the African Development Bank, that's supposed to be giving this money, if in 56 years they have given only 410 millions, and that on 62 projects, how possible are they going to give 430 millions just in a short period? That alone can tell anybody that this is not adding up right. But again, people are not reasoning. Like you talk about my Butu trying to build clinic. Some people with their heart set, once they hear that, they're not going to do any investigation. They will cast their votes based on that. And that is the problem we're going to be having. People are giving information last minute to the time that are not accurate. And at the end of the day, people will be making lifetime decisions based on erroneous statements. So I think it is intended for elections, and people should be very, very mindful how they cast their ballots.
Mr. Gaiman.
Thank you.
I know Lot 1 is around your area, right?
Yes, Brembasa County. But let me be clear here. I worked 10 years of my life working for the Chamber of Commerce. I worked 7 years of that working for the United Way. I work with all the major corporations, including banks.
And Bay Road.
Excuse me. Listen, if we're going to debate this way, Mr. Kamada,
I just ask a question. Go ahead.
Listen, man, why do you do this? I don't know what school you went to, but we don't do this here. But let me tell you, no institution.
He went to Foyer High School.
Listen, no institution.
And he walked from Zaza to Vanjaman.
That's right.
Go ahead, give me. I'm muting them.
Joseph Boakai said he did it when he was 5 years old. So it's something to do. Now, this is what I'm saying. No institution of that magnitude, no matter what inquiry you make, will divulge contractual agreement to somebody who makes an inquiry like Mr. Mame. And yes, he can do that. Mr. Mame did not tell you that I spoke or I communicated with the vice president for administration or the president in charge of international loan. He didn't do that. He didn't name any of those folks. He made an inquiry and he said they refer him to somebody else. So that tells you that an institution like me, if I call the IMF and say, I want to inquire about Liberia or Sierra Leone or Guinea, they will tell you anything, okay? The spokesperson, the person in charge of that particular transaction should be the one that will respond with you. And this fallacy that because Liberia have not been funded since 1847, it won't be funded today. It's a complete fallacy. Liberia have never received anything of this magnitude. Let's look at the 300 million we are talking about. Let's look at those who are in authority that spoke. They say here, the UK's ambassador to Liberia, Neil Bradley, the authority for Europe. So we are naming name, calling time, everything.
Authority on what?
We are talking about those who are funding. Okay. And when you look at these people, they listed all the ambassadors, all the stakeholders that were at this meeting.
In which story? In which story?
The African Development Bank.
Let's see. We are talking about the World Bank's project that was just the 300
things.
Listen, no. Listen to this. We're talking the same thing here. I am telling you that the people that are speaking with authority
about the coastal highway.
No, listen to this. When we are talking about institution and contract of this magnitude, we are talking about people with authority. Mr. Mohamed did not call or name one vice president of the African Development Bank or the vice president for administration that will say, I am in charge today and this is it. I don't think he spoke to anybody. Instead, he said they refer him. So that tells you that Mohamed he's a politician. He's a representative of Gonglo. His job is to knock down anything that makes the president look good. But I'm telling you, this is reality. Grand Bassa County, we are all hyped because we are lot one from Grand Bassa County to River Set. So, Mr. Mohamed, nice try, but you failed on this one.
Mr. Gamer, is the timing suspect?
No, not at all. You're sounding just like the Republican when Barack Obama was trying to nominate a Supreme Court judge. They say, well, it's time for election. We are going to put the confirmation of the justice. We're going to put it on hold because election is coming. 11 months, we can't confirm. Can you imagine that government should stop 11 months before election because election is coming? That's why Mohamed is telling you.
Give me a quick question. To you. So even without seeing a loan agreement, without a loan agreement being rectified by the legislature, you stay happy?
But listen, I trust my government, okay? Right. I trust my government and I don't trust you.
Mr. Mohamed, I want you to walk us through what you got here.
Come again?
I say, walk us through what is on the screen, what you got for us. You say, after reviewing your request, we are pleased to inform you that in accordance with bank disclosure and access to information, we confirm the information you find at this address for Liberia is up to date as of today.
Correct.
What does that mean? So
the information at that official site is what I share with you. This is the information, and if any one of you on the link can just hit the link, I put the link in the chat room. If you can just hit that link, it takes you directly to the African Development Bank website on Liberia. All the projects they provided, the projects are listed there. From 1967 to July 2023, all their projects approved, pending, closed are listed there. There is no coastal highway. That's the fact. The second thing is, every loan agreement is ratified by the legislature. Why will you have only this coastal highway loan agreement not ratified by the legislature? Nobody can see it. It's not anywhere to be found. But yet you are happy. But every other loan agreement in Liberia is online. It's rectified by the legislature. Only the coastal highway we can't see, but you're happy.
Thank you. Mr. Aliu Kamara, according to JNB, he said within your first 100 days, no car will be stuck in the mud. I think the coastal highway is going to facilitate that promise. True or false?
You are muted.
Yeah. Hold on, sir.
Let me say, Dennis, great topic about this whole coastal highway thing. Dennis, you think the people are stupid? Let me make it simple. Let's not make it too sophisticated. Dennis, the road from here, the BA Joshua to Pack Up in. That road you can hold your nose a day. You walk, you go, you come back. Dennis, from 2019, the men again complete that road. Dennis, your border, they
Yeah,
take the whole route.
is like walking distance.
Yeah, yeah. Dennis, your border to the Ralphie Highway, where Ellie Jones only went and pave it, make it smooth. Your boss took it, they dig it, they turn it upside down. Dennis, for 84 days to election, the men say they're coming back Coastal Highway, and you want us to spend our time all that and listen to Gamer here.
84 days, 100 days.
84 days. Where? That's how you're counting Lofa?
84 days and 100 days, they are very close. Mr. Boakai say 100 days.
But let me answer your 100-day question. Let me answer your 100-day question with Boakai. See, the thing about Boakai, and one of the reasons why we really love him, is that he's very pragmatic. He gives you pragmatic realities. The road you were in Sino, you used to plow. If I don't know how often you plowed from Sino to Monrovia, you did not have to go through Aricos, and there were dusty roads. So what Joseph Boakai is telling you, there's something that you already know of its possibility. It can happen. All you have to do is deal. If we don't have rural development again like we used to have back in the days, all you have to do is deal with public work and make sure all of their stationaries in the various capitals and the county capitals are active and functional. Keep the yellow machines on these highways, and you get those things straightened up. There's no big deal about it. You know that.
Really?
Yeah, you already know.
Victor, the coastal highway.
I share the optimism of. I wish I could share the optimism of my friend Jerome Gilman here. I really felt for him how difficult it was for him to try to spin this thing. Look, these guys have sat in office. Let's look at this. The current president contested election in 2005. He tried again in 2017. He finally won in 20. He tried again in 2011. Finally.
No, he didn't try.
He was a vice president.
Thank you.
So, but the point is, this guy has been in office for 5 years. He has shown absolutely no plan to do anything for this country. This is his lame duck year. In fact, it's been pointed out here that we have less than 90 days to the election, and we're going to believe that he's actually finally going to do something. I think this is an election ploy by these people. We know it when we see it. I am from the southeast. I come from Barobo. We go through River G, to go to Barobo. Over the past 3 years, my wife and I, we've gone to Monrovia, Liberia at least 5 times. We've been to Nimba twice. But I have not been able to go to the southeast because the roads are impossible. So nothing will excite me more than to see that road made possible. But this current government it does not have the willingness and the capacity to do anything about it. Both are lacking in this government. So when they come here and tell us there is money coming in from World Bank and African Development, first of all, if there is going to be anything, there are conditions attached. The government must show its own desire and the initiative to win the project. How many times have this government now lost out on projects because it has failed to show that little commitment, whether it is 2 million or 3 million? They can't afford to put it forth. And this is the government we're going to say here. We'll sit here with 80 days left for it to happen, and they're finally going to liberate us. That's to me, that's a joke. I don't see it. It is not going to happen. I will believe it when I see it. Until I see that, I'm sorry. I'm inclined not to trust that they have any plan. Neither have they identified any funding. I mean, come on. We all lived through the Igbo Mob and Ebo Mob, whatever those were called. You understand me? So I'm not going to get my hopes up, and I'm not holding my breath. We said time for them to pack their bags and leave. I believe Fixer 1 and Fixer 2, they have a plan to deliver this country.
Fix it what?
By the way,
Fixer 1 and Fixer 2.
by the way, there is also a Savior 1 and Savior 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah, there is a bishop, vice president, and a former. So there are a lot of things happening here. You have
Dennis is like real quick, right?
Is that
No,
on?
I want to go to Jimmy. Jimmy, quickly. What is going on here? Is there we talk about the Iboma loan? Is this Coastal Highway Project Lot 1? Is it in the same category, or there's something happening here? And
No.
what is Minister trying to accomplish here?
No, I don't believe is in that same category, that Iboma loan, and I will address that. But this project is a joint project between ECOWAS and the AU. I think they call it the New Partnership for Africa's Development. This thing has been in the works for a while now, and the longest portions to build are in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Because of the civil war, it's been put to rest. So the African Development Bank is supposed to foot the bill. That is how the project was set up. My issue with any kind of loan that we receive has to be directly related to revenue generation. In other words, taking this loan today, is it going to generate revenue? Right now, our debt servicing, we're hardly making it already. Now, are we increasing our revenue? Our GDP is going up, and we haven't seen it go up that much at all. Now you want to take another loan, and if that loan is not directly related to generating revenue, then how do you plan to pay this money back? So I see, like the Iboma loan, I see us rejoicing when we get a loan. But what we really need to do is, do we know how we're going to increase our revenue intake with this loan? If that's not directly related, then we shouldn't rejoice. We're just getting in more and more debt. But this road, we have to analyze whether it will increase revenue. Roads do, because you have more economic activity, but it's been in a pipeline a long time now, and I'm looking at the priorities of Liberia and how much debt servicing we're doing. Our debt to income ratio. It will depend on are we ready to engage in this project. We're already behind, and so is are we ready? Are there other priorities before that? But yes, the African Development Bank is the one that's footing the bill. They're supposed to, and that's been in the pipeline a while now. So it's not a lie, but we have to prepare ourselves to be able to do this.
Thank you. And talking about that,
I disagree.
Mr. Ismail is talking about something else.
I disagree with him.
I want you to state your disagreement, but let me announce that if you want to join the conversation, we're about to close in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Call the number on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. And talking about our debt to GDP ratio every time we take loan, surprisingly, I don't think any presidential aspirant is even addressing that. Debt to GDP.
No, there is.
No, there is. Joseph Boakai said we're not going to be involved in loans.
But the debt
Joseph Boakai said we're not going to be involved in loans.
No, the debt we get already. How are you going to pay back the debt?
But I don't know about already on paper. There's an agreement.
But the way I was saying that, how do we? Anyway, go ahead, or Mami, you have 49 seconds quickly.
Yeah, I think I think I can call him the senior brother. He was referring to something different. What is his source of reliance that there is a commitment between the government of Liberia and the African Development Bank for the construction of Coastal Highway? show us the reliance. Besides that, everyone here knew that there is a Millennium Challenge Corporation compact for countries like Liberia to benefit from. They present to you the package and the requirements that you must meet before you can benefit. You saw the finance minister dancing that Liberia has received compact, but on the day the compact was announced, Liberia did not receive. So when these multinationals or multilateral organizations make commitment to constructing or building roads in Africa, including Liberia, there are preconditions to receiving the money. If you don't meet those conditions, you can't run and say, I already received the money. More than that, and most importantly, every loan agreement from a bank in Liberia is deposited at the legislature and rectified. No agreement whatsoever has been rectified with the legislature for Coastal Highway. So what is Mr. Jimmy's reliance that the African Development
He's talking about
will
something
fund a road
else,
in
not the
Liberia?
same thing.
What's the reliance?
I want to send you the link. This thing has been a project in the making with the ECOWAS and the AU for a while, and African Development Bank is finance. I'm gonna put the link in the chat.
Yeah, and I'm gonna post the link to the to YouTube and Facebook so that we all can. Now we have our callers here lined up to call, and as you may expect, Mr. Evan Morris, you are live. Go ahead. Mr. Morris is up. It's been consistently the first caller on the line. We appreciate you, Mr. Morris. Go ahead.
Something wrong.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Unmuted.
Go ahead, Elvis.
I hope someone can beat Elvis to it tonight.
No,
All right, thank you,
Oh.
Mr. Eastman, and hello to all the panelists. Mr. Eastman, thank you for that brilliant analysis right there, because you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I was going to mention. People forget that it takes a long time to secure funding for different projects. We heard it from Ellen Johnson every time. All the roads that she didn't finish, she said the reasons they didn't finish the roads because they have to take time to secure those funding. And when it got funds, that's when things came. We had to move the power. So these things, especially a major construction like the Coastal Highway, takes a long time. And Mr. Eastman is right. There was that agreement between the EU and Africa, and the African Development Bank would be the one that will facilitate the money. It's also guaranteed by the EU for those loans. So it's not going to be like a usurious rate where you get charged a high interest. It's going to be very low and manageable for the country to repay. But people like Mame, people like Kamara, Mr. Kamara, they don't want people like us on the southeast to get out of Coastal Highway, so they over here trying to castigate the government. That was a joke.
You know that according to Kamara, Elvis, because your neighbor is
But you're the one always running the government. How can you not get ruled?
But when it comes to this issue with the radio station being shut down, I think most of you guys on the platform was spot on your analysis. I said, Mr. Sharif, I think he admitted himself. He's too hard on the government, sometimes to his own detriment when it comes to his argument. You have to be balanced. The reality is this is a legal process that the gentleman went through. Government can't sue people for libel or defamation. No way. But individuals within the government who have been damaged can sue for libel or defamation,
Right.
and he did that.
And government can also hire and let the individuals go ahead.
Mr. Jada, that way you insinuating now. But the fact that in this case, because previously there was some related to what he was accusing him of because the government relieved him of his duty. But this guy is so arrogant and nonchalant that he didn't even go to show up in court and take the Liberian government serious. And this is the consequences of it. I'm sure in the next few weeks, maybe his station will open back up and everything will be fine. But this is not a government trying to strong arm him into shutting down his station. And lastly, I will just say this. Joseph Boakai has no history of fighting corruption. None at all. If anything, he has a history of...
Say you don't know. Say you don't know.
It was $3 million. For 12 years, in his basic salary, $3 million. So they today he jumping anywhere, he jumping at the room with the babu because he said babu get banana for him.
Let's begin somewhere for.
Boakai will ruin this country more so than we ever seen before. Can never gain power in our country.
Thank you.
Thank you. You think you're worried about Bago?
I pray Johnson. I pray Johnson.
Darling Warwood, darling your life. Target, man.
Yeah, thank you. So, first, let me say this. I am no Joe Biden supporter. I am not on Joe Biden train. So, I will just speak quickly to the issue of the 30 million getting first. There was no 30 million nowhere whatsoever. That was a cheap scheme.
How do you know this?
Federal European with. This is something we read in kindergarten school, my book of our story. Where, like, this guy started and crafted a cheap scheme that, hey, let's tell the woman that somebody wants to give me $30 million getting first, but we don't want it, we still want to give it to him so he can make me VP. And he expects somebody to really buy that. 2-year-old would laugh at that story. It's just a cheap scheme, very cheap.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say. There was no 30 million nowhere whatsoever.
Thank you.
419. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last caller here is Flomo Livingstone. Flomo. Go ahead, Flomo.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that Coastal Highway. That one is a big scam. It's a complete lie. I mean, I like what my mom said. I mean, Jimmy Eastman, when he read to speak or something like that, he was on evidence. Where can we go find it, the agreement so we can read? So folks are like and post it, and we can go read about it. Don't just, spit us lies for no evidence. Again, to the Coastal scam. I mean, I don't know why you guys keep talking about it. $30 million. There's no $30 million. No, like Coastal would see $30 million and refuse. Instead of giving $30 million to be a president and refuse it, and say, let me give it to Joe Boakai because I'm loyal to Joe Boakai. No, of course, not became loyal to someone. No, the man life is being a scammer, man. The man is scammer all through his life. It never worked. So I don't think that kind of money, of course, I would never fix anything. So I don't believe in that scam. All right? I mean, landed to the phone network, that's completely wrong. You don't do that. I mean, the government is supposed to do that. It's a civil case, I believe, and you shouldn't go court and lock everything and stuff like that. You should go arrest. I mean, the CEO not even there. You don't like it without the CEO and stuff. So I think the government here behind that thing, and we should stop that. I mean, election time coming, we don't want no problem. We want peaceful election. Let the press have that freedom. We all will now agree on the same thing. All right. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. Another thing I found out about that, the rate is it listed the Spoon Network and it also listed Stanton Witherspoon. That the lawyers are saying, normally the executive are separate from the business. Business is an entity that you can sue, right? So you don't have to list the person and then you list the business at the same time. So the lawyers are looking at that. I hope they can seriously challenge that also. Well, gentlemen and lady, and you heard our callers. Aliu, this $1 million thing is not going to go away. You think the public will address it?
The $30 million thing is not going to go away because we're talking about million. And let me tell you something. We give everybody the freedom, including my brother Mohammed, to discuss the $30 million thing. There will be no official statement from the Unity Party about this $30 million thing, not to even speak of Joseph Boakai. There are pressing issues in the country. The country is confronted with corruption. The country is confronted with bad roads. The country is confronted with bad medical facilities. Those are things that Joseph Boakai aspire to fix. We're not here to be talking about hearsay, you say, I say. If Henry Costa believes, and for those of you guys who are sympathizers of the ANC and the CDC by extension, for those of you guys, let me say this to you. Go to Henry Costa. Henry Costa levied the allegation. He said he knows the people. They met him to some hotel room, whatever. Joseph Boakai was not in that room. He met those people first. He knows the people. He directed the people to Joseph Boakai. Henry Costa. He convinced Joseph Boakai to meet the people.
Thank you.
Get Henry Costa, and Henry Costa will show you the people.
Thank you. And also, Mr. Boakai, I met with them, so we just want to make sure what else I
No,
just
it's not gonna happen.
All right. As usual, we encourage our viewers. If you are watching us on the big screen, please show that. This is Mr. Evan Morris, who is watching us on his big screen right in his living room. So if you're watching us, let us know where you're watching us from. Also, Mame was talking about, he spoke about the head of the asset recovery and restitution team resigning. I think they call this guy Doctor. He said he got doctor.
Yeah, that job we are as a recovery man, he resigned. He said because
Yeah.
no commitment to fight corruption, so he
Is that
resigned.
Councillor Johnson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson. The only Liberian
And the asset
PhD
recovery
lady.
team will dissolve.
Well, thank you all. At this time, we're going to be getting your closing comments as we draw down the curtains. Let me start with my man from WAPO Institute, Mr. Sharif.
Okay, so thank you, Dennis. So as we talk about corruption and talk about all the other different things, and the government complicity in the spoon network situation. There's also another situation. There's also Nathaniel McGill who has resurfaced, and nothing has been done. These guys were sanctioned by the United States government. Forget United States sanction. We've been talking about these things for a very, very long time. But the Weir administration has done absolutely nothing. And so now people like Nathaniel McGill, Bill Torway, they're going to come now. Probably some of them will be elected. Some may not. Some will be elected. And those guys that will be elected, especially in the Senate, they're going to get a position for a lifetime. Liberian Senate is almost like a lifetime position. You're in there, you're getting for 9 years. You're lucky you get the second term. That's 18 years, too long. So as we talk about these things, let's keep in mind that, there are all kinds of issues going on in the country. And so it's like a nonstop. It's every single day. Mr. Eastman said it right. We are a forgetful people. Our memory is very short. So we'll talk about it now. Everybody will talk about it, and just, it will just wither away. And it's very unfortunate, it's sad.
Thank you. Mr. Gaiman.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I just want to make clear here that the Joseph Boakai thing, the $30 million is not going away. It wouldn't go away. It shouldn't go away. First of all, we are obligated, he is obligated to the Liberian people to tell us who he met. Those people, are they terrorists? Are they Russian oligarchs? And we want to know who are these people that are buying everything in sight. When this man talk about integrity, someone just talk about having a job for life in the Senate. PYJ is going for, he's applying to have his term that will take him to the 27th year, so he will match President Totman in power. And this is the man that Aliyu Kamara and these folks are running around with as the candidate of choice. He's talking about people being sanctioned. You just talk about that. I think the last time I checked, I may be wrong. If my memory serves me right, that Prince Johnson was also sanctioned. Maybe my memory is kind of fuzzy. But if sanctioned people should be despised, Aliyu Kamara is talking from both sides of his mouth because he has one that is sanctioned and he's running. But anyhow, Mr. Mame, thank you very much. I love to engage this young man. He's great. It was a great show. How do you call them? The 7%ers. I'm glad that you stuck in there. This time you're going to get 5%. But it's going to be a great victory for the CDC for our work that we have done. And I will be back here with you in January, and I will be saying it, and you will be going to the Supreme Court. As always, nobody ever dies in Liberia for nothing. You will never lose, but we will tell you that you will lose. Thank you very much, and see you Day 2024.
Mr. Gaiman, you're talking about sanctioned people. Does that include Nathaniel McGill?
Yes, yes, but somebody said if they are sanctioned, they are no good. But then, like Tip O'Neill said, everybody love their own crooks. Kamara loved his own Jeremiah Kong, and his own. In fact, he got double crooks. He got Jeremiah Kong, and he got Prince Wild Johnson out there. So that's crook time too. Crook to the second power.
Mrs. Mother, you're closing.
Sorry, I was on mute. And their ears, and just everything to be careful before they cast their ballots. They cannot just vote for people based on what somebody tells them. They can do their own investigation, do your own research, so that your vote will not be regretted tomorrow. It was a great show. Thanks to all the panelists, and we'll see you again.
Thank you. Mr. Aliyu Kamara.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Janet, as always. Man, you are good in this thing. And I think, I believe, I can't promise because I don't have that authority, but I do believe that you will interview Joseph Boakai before the election. Mo Ali is in town, by the way. He works directly in the office of the ambassador, and you've interviewed Mo before. Mo will be the right man for you. And the last time I found out that he was online with your boy George Lobo. So get in touch with George Lobo, and if Mo agrees, Joseph Boakai will come to you. Look, let's just say, look, Mr. Gilman, everyone on the show, I really enjoyed my time tonight, as always. Great people. Mr. Eastman, now fighting and slow down small. We're not fighting too much again. But we'll get back to on a point. I know how to push a button. I'll just say the word Congo, and we'll start fighting again. But but you know, look, let nobody be fooled.
Mr. Kamara, this is a serious matter.
Yeah. Let nobody be fooled into thinking that we have an election going on between 20 political parties. We have an election between two political parties, the CDC and the Unity Party. And from every indication, I'm not speaking in terms of miracle, I'm not speaking in terms of imagination, I'm speaking in terms of number. From every indication, Joseph Boakai is sitting in a very comfortable lead. And there's a reason for that. You know, I always say to people want to interpret or tell me about someone that I already know. And this is the problem with the people in Nimba. This is the same thing that the people in Nimba can show you guys. In recent time, when Joseph Boakai went to Nimba County, they didn't buy themselves. I heard my brother Sherry say Joseph Boakai has a beautiful story, but he doesn't tell it. But it's good for those who are witnesses to tell the story. The people in Nimba clearly stated that for the first time in their history as Nimbayan, they became self-sufficient not only in rice production, but they begin to make money out of their cocoa, their coffee, and their rubber under Joseph Nyuma Boakai. In Brown County, similar thing was repeated. So the story of Joseph Boakai is not a Google story. He's not one of those candidates that you have to Google before you know them. You might not know them because you may be in the diaspora for too long. But Joseph Boakai's story is the Liberian story. A man who was born to a disabled mother, no father, abandoned by his father, pulled himself by his bootstrap.
Why?
And today, why was the mother disabled?
No, his father not around.
But it always happens, Dennis. It always happens.
It doesn't always happen.
Yes, usually it is the fathers that runs and the mother takes care of us.
Because, especially at the time he was born and in Lofa County, that is.
But these things were happening.
That does not happen easily.
These things were happening. So what you want to say?
I'm just curious as to why.
Well, again, the mother is not alive, the father is not alive, but Joe Boakai was abandoned, and it could have been for economic reasons because Joe Boakai's mother had a lot of children. Okay, so it could be variation of reasons why this happened, but that is not my point.
Right. I mean, I
Man,
don't want to engage in any conspiracy here, but sometimes because what you're trying to do there is maybe the father crossed the border to Sierra Leone, maybe.
no, you're trying to express yourself. Don't put it on me. What I'm
No,
trying,
I'm
what I
asking.
am.
I'm just asking an innocent question here because it's not
Well,
likely
well,
for our parents in the interior
his
where
father did cross the
strong
border.
traditional beliefs for them to abandon their little ones.
Mr.
His
John,
father did cross the border.
yeah,
It's always obvious Wasanga is a bordering town.
Okay.
Okay? If you were from River G, from a bordering town with Aricos, it would be easy for you to cross the border either. You wouldn't have walked from Monrovia to Lac. You would have just crossed the border. But here's the thing. Let me just say this, as I was saying. Joseph Yuma Boakai will come from nowhere to become someone. He has been a leader from his junior high days to high school days, all through his life. He has been a leader. He was born a leader. And the reason why he was always signaled out, the reason why he has always been spotted to lead is because not only of his persona, not only of his personality, but his contribution, the performances that he brings. Everywhere Joseph Boakai worked, he reformed.
Thank you.
And I'm asking Liberians now. I know a lot of you here who are criticizing under this live feed. You are not in Liberia. You will not be voting, but I wish you was. If you will be voting, I would suggest to you, if you have Liberia at heart, if you really truly believe in Liberia at this time, I am sorry, Taiwan could have been, but Taiwan is far away. We really wish. But Joseph Boakai is the man in charge now. He's going to win this election. Support us, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Ambula Mame, you're closing, sir.
When the Unity Party people say the election is between CDC and Unity Party, or the competition, then I say it is a competition between who is corrupt more than the other, who put more journalists in jail or close down more radio stations than the other. That's the competition between the two of you.
No problem.
Who did secret killing, kill auditors more than the other. But when it comes to the competition to change and transform Liberia, it's not between the CDC and the Unity Party. No, it's not. So I just wanted to make that correction. You people have your competition around corruption. You people have your competition around putting journalists and closing down media institutions. You have your competition around killing people, auditors, Harry Green and stuff like that. That competition is with you people. We agree. But when it comes to changing Liberia, it's not between CDC and Unity Party. So I wanted to make that clear. And I want to close on this, Dennis. Every loan agreement in Liberia, every loan concession in Liberia has an agreement signed by the president or by the minister of finance and ratified by the legislature. That's law. Every agreement. But when it comes to coastal highway, no agreement, and somebody want us to look at video documentary, and conclude that yes, the African Development Bank has committed to Liberia, because there is a video documentary talking not about Liberia, but talking about building a transnational highway, sub-Saharan highway. This platform is credited for the content. When we come and we say something, let's try as much as possible to provide evidence. We are educated people. We know that every agreement must be signed and rectified. We don't have one. We can't see it, but we still want to argue and still want to celebrate that Coastal Highway has been committed to the African Development Bank. There is a critical part, but I didn't want to bring it on the show because sometimes Liberia has a credit rating. You are restricted to not credit certain amount of money. That's the reason why African Development Bank cannot credit you that amount of money. You don't have that credit rating. See your credit to GDP ratio, your loan to GDP ratio. That requirement restricts you from crediting that amount of money. We can go into all of these. The simplest thing to prove that this thing is not true is there is no agreement to show the legislature had not rectified one. And every loan agreement must be rectified by the legislature. If you can show me one, don't tell me we'll have a loan agreement with African Development Bank for Coastal Highway. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nabwe.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to my fellow panelists and viewers as well. It was a pretty interesting evening. For once, I'll have to agree with my friend Jerome. My longtime friend. I don't really believe that ignoring the allegations from Henry Costa about this telemina is going to go away by the vice president just wishing it away. I don't think so. I really do believe for a man who prides himself, whose essence is integrity, as he says, I really believe if someone came out and levied this magnitude of allegation against you, I think you should really come out and explain. Especially that we have confirmation from several sources, including his son, that this meeting actually did happen, even though Mr. Kamara will have us believe otherwise, that he just stumbled into the meeting. He was coming from somewhere. He missed his room and went into the other room and all that stuff. You understand me? But I really think he should say something about it. This thing about the competition being between the CDC and Unity Party, this is the hubris of the Unity Party people. The same thing they did 2017 that got them where they are today, and let them go ahead continue to believe that. We're feeling pretty good with what we're doing right now, and we're very confident. We're very confident that we are going to be in a runoff, given what we're doing. We're looking at the analytics, and it helps us the more they believe that they already have it, and therefore they need to sit down and campaign by proxy. We have heard, rescue mother who, whatever it is, rescue two, telling rescue one, you don't even need to campaign, just sit down there, we'll take care of it. That is good. We like that because it plays in our favor. So let them go ahead and continue to believe that. Now, this CDC government, this government has been in the nation for over 5 years. To have the gall, the audacity to tell us with less than 3 months to election that they are finally going to do something worthwhile for this country, and therefore they should be elected again. It is, to me, it's just really an insult to our electorate. Our people, nobody's stupid here. Our people say, the people have given you the opportunity for over 5 years, and in your last days in office, all of a sudden, you care about them now. You want to bring relief to my southeast, where I haven't been able to go because the road is impossible. Where you go, you fly in and come out and all that because you have, government, utilities at your disposal. We're not having it. We're not buying it. So, Mr. Cummings has indicated in the first 100 days, he's going to make available $20 million that will help create 100,000 jobs. We're talking about building the economy. The best way to build the economy is to give people gainful employment so that people spend money into the economy and they bring revenue into the economy. We have the plans, we have the sources available, and we're ready to get to work. So we are ready right now. We're all giddy, we're waiting for October 10th to come by. All these 46 parties in the race, I'm happy my Harper boy and my former Cardinal schoolmate, Dr. Barnes, Ambassador Barnes, I think he has left the race. This is what I said last night when I called in. In the progressive community.
Was he in the race?
Okay, Dennis, I see you got jokes. Yes, he has been in a race.
Oh, okay.
But, in the progressive community, from the UPP
if he had registered then, but he didn't register, so
I think that's why he decided to
right, because so that was just an aspiration.
But that is not the means by which we define who's in the race and who's not, Dennis.
Okay, you got a point.
Thank you. So, but what we campaigned for was multi-party democracy. What we have now is what many are calling multiplicity of parties. 46 parties. So people are coming to their senses. We'll coalesce. will coalesce as we get closer to October 10th. This thing is going to tighten up. So those who believe we're 7%ers, yes, we know that. This is why we're working the hardest in the race, and people will be shocked. People will be going to the hospital after October 10th. They will be shocked.
Thank you.
So fixer 1, fixer 2, we're on the road. We're moving. Thank you.
Thank you. And for that 20 million, if you're thinking about loan, what we are hearing is Liberia has a bad credit, so you may not be able to get a loan.
No, you didn't hear that loan word from me, Dennis. I never said anything about loan. I know that's why Kamara is whispering in your ear. I never said anything about loan.
Victor, why you keep talking about hospital, going to the hospital, going to the hospital? Who's close?
Thank you. Hold on, Jerome. I want to bring Jimmy to have the final word. Jimmy, you're closing.
Yeah. So briefly about this 30 million, I want to tell you that is a common ploy employed by political parties. I remember being on Buduburum, and we were running for president of the association there, and they were saying, "Oh, this group come and talk to you, so you can come to a compromise." The group came and they never said a word, and it went back, only so they can go and say, "Oh, they were talking to those people." That's just what happened to Boakai. It was a ploy, a political ploy to get him involved, to say he's speaking to somebody. It's been done over and over again. There's nothing new about it. It's very common in Liberian politics.
You didn't see that coming?
No?
But Jimmy, they didn't talk to Kamis because they know someone is gullible. That's the person they talk to. I just want to know that.
Okay. Now let me address my brother Kamara here. Kamara, I would cringe when you mentioned Congo, you mentioned country. I would cringe because it's a characterization of people without judging, without knowing what their true nature is. It is a defensive technique also to keep us down, because I don't believe Liberia can advance unless we are together, one people. So yes, either side of the aisle, I would cringe if you say it, okay? Because I know it tends to divide, and dividing us will have us ruled by somebody else, okay? But lastly, the elections are proving more and more interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of more surprises. I see some people of very high caliber there, but they're not as popular as others. So Liberian people will decide, and our decision has us where we are today, and our decision will determine our tomorrow. Only thing we can do is provide the wisdom, the facts, and that's all we can do. But other than that, people will decide tomorrow.
Thank you. On that note, I want to say thank you all tonight. Thank our viewers for watching, even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia is the place to be. Forget the rest. And let me also announce that we are having some challenges in Liberia. Election is coming closer. So every little piece of paper, they are asking for it. But we're going to keep doing what we do best: educate, elevate, and promote all things.
All right.
Mr. Job, can you please pitch us, because we're doing our fundraiser to help those guys. FOL is doing a fundraiser to help our reporters on the ground. You see, they're doing a great job. It requires money. They need data. They need transportation. Mr. Jai, you're the CEO. Can you make that pitch for us?
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, definitely. Our Cash App and Zelle number is on the screen. We, especially as election coming, the evil forces, as somebody would want to call them, will want to quiet any form of dissent, any form of true voice of the people. So, and that will come to us at all fronts. So please pitch in, help us to sustain what we're doing here. Zelle us or Cash App out. The number is the same, 6513926224. Or if you have an old phone, iPad, tripod, or motorbike, or you have abandoned building, you want us to at least keep our stuff there, anything you can do to help, please do that to help us. On that note, we want to draw down the curtains with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you are
Are you
black,
gone for money from the $30 million bag or what?
whatever your background is, and whichever political party you support, we are all Liberians. Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia, Liberia.